Good evening.
In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over Lunenburg Public Access Channel on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube page within 24 hours after its conclusion. If you would like to join this meeting, and we have somebody here who will be participating who's made other arrangements, but generally the Zoom meeting is for public comment only. If you would like to join that Zoom meeting, you can use your smart device, computer, or smartphone. Use the Zoom app, and the webinar ID for tonight is 909-174-0347. If you do not have any of those devices and want to join by phone, you can dial 888-475-4499. And once again, the webinar ID is 909-174-0347. The posted agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. To those who celebrate Rosh Hashanah in our community and abroad, Happy New Year and Shana Tova to all of you. Any public comment from the board this evening?
None.
No.
Any public comment from the public? Any announcements?
No announcements.
All right. Already ahead of schedule, a 7:05 p.m. meeting with Lunenburg Central regarding a new parcel 475 Leominster Shirley Road as part of a larger parcel. Madam Town Manager, would you like to introduce this?
Yes. So this is coming before the select board tonight, basically because part of the project is proposed to widen that section of road to accommodate a turn lane. The planning board will take this up under a site plan review, so all those pieces of the planning will be before the planning board. I believe their September 13th meeting. So tonight is just to give the board a preliminary presentation, a short presentation regarding this location and what it would require for widening of the road. Okay. And we have with us tonight a few representatives in the audience. One is Mr. Brennan. Jack Brennan could not be present in person, but he is here via Zoom. And there, I believe, are a few representatives tonight representing Lunenburg Central, correct? Okay. I'm not sure why that's green.
Well, I'm going to do it. If you would like to come up to the microphone, please. Jim, can I ask you to?
Yep. You should have your screen.
Yes, but you also have an overlapping picture here. If you come and look at the screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what that is. That was on her screen.
Nope. Oh, there we
you
go.
All right. Nope. Now. Thank you.
So, for the record, I'm Peter Mahoney with
At
John.
the microphone, only so that people at home
Yes.
can hear.
For the record, thank you for having us this evening. My name is Peter Mahoney. I'm with the John M. Corcoran and Company. John Brennan with the Brennan Group is here. Well, Jack Brennan via Zoom, and Eric with Greenman Peterson, our traffic engineer. And Jack, I believe you're able to talk, and Jack is going to walk us through a brief presentation, and then we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Take it away, Jack.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting us and allowing us to present to you this evening. And I have to send my regrets. I intended to be there in person, but over the past couple of days, I've developed a pretty significant head cold and cough. And so in the interest of public health, it's non-COVID, but I got tested, but in the interest of public health, I decided to that discretion would have better part of valor here and not go. But again, thank you for allowing us to present to you this evening. As Peter mentioned, we have Peter Mahoney and John Brennan and members of our consulting team there that are prepared to answer any questions that you may have, Mr. Chairman, or members of the board. And before I start, I would like to thank Heather and her assistant, Elaine, for assisting in this process. And it was a very efficient one. So we're here to give you a snapshot overview, if you will, members of the board, for a project that we're excited about that's located at 475 Leominster Shirley Road, as Heather indicated earlier. Our initial address was 535, but the building department formally issued the address just a few days ago. We'll take you through just a project overview, focusing on the current location and the current use, the site, there's some site photographs, bring you through the site design and building overview, touch on what we think are the public services and fiscal impacts of this development, and then focus on the roadway enhancements. And if I say roadway enhancements, what we're seeking, and it's before the planning board, as Heather mentioned, is we're seeking to add a turn lane in front of our a site, and we will be, assuming the town approves it, widening that road or doing an alteration within the existing right-of-way. Will not be expanding the existing right-of-way at all. And our team our engineering team has worked closely with Rob Oliver, and so with that, if I could go on to the next slide. The project proponents, it's a joint venture between the Brennan Group and the John M. Corcoran Company. Cumulatively, these companies have decades of experience building developments, managing developments in Massachusetts primarily, but outside the state as well, focusing on office, multifamily, and industrial. The proposed building development will be an approximately 372,000 square foot Class A high bay industrial warehouse distribution facility. The site is, as far as zoning goes, it's located in an office park in an industrial zoning district. In the use, the warehouse distribution use is one that is allowed under the zoning code by right, subject to design approval by the planning board. Next slide, please. The site is right now comprises a much larger site at 475 Leominster Shirley Road. We have under agreement with the PJ Keating Company an agreement to acquire 32 acres of the existing Keating site. This location is, for those of you who are familiar with the area, it's a highly industrialized area. It's bordered by the PJ Keating operation, by the Lafarge concrete processing operation, and the MBTA to the north in the Leominster Shirley Road to the south. In fact, it is I could throw a baseball, and I don't have a good throw anymore, but I could throw a baseball from this site to the town of Shirley. It's that close. It's an underutilized portion of the PJ Keating sand and gravel operation. The majority of this site over the years has been mined. The topsoil and gravel has been removed from this site And I have some pictures, we'll have some pictures that bring you in on the site and some pictures of the existing location. You can see it here. There's the approximate site location. You can see it's way down in the corner of Lunenburg, just feet away from Shirley, and then further south, very, very close to the town of Lancaster's town line with Lunenburg, and then to the west, the town of Leominster's town line is not too far away. Next one, please. So here's a zoom-in shot of the existing site. You see up page is the MBTA railroad right-of-way. Down page is the Leominster Shirley Road. To the right, it's bordered by a railroad spur in the Lafarge concrete processing operation. And to the left, it's bordered by an active mining operation owned and operated today by the PJ Ag Heating Company. So this area within the red outline is approximately 32 acres. Next, please. So here's a shot of the existing site. It's kind of a full-on site, has been used over the years, and there's not much left of it. So next slide, please. There's another one. That's how it looks, looking to the west. Another one, please. And so the site itself is rather desolate at the moment. And as I mentioned, approximately 32 acres, approximately 372,000 square foot Class A high bay industrial warehouse. The dimension of the building it's 310 feet wide, 1,200 feet long, and the development will include parking for employees and trailer parking. On-site stormwater management system compliant with an operation and management plan has been developed, a design by our engineering firm, Bill Hannigan of Leominster. He's worked closely with the planning department on that design. There will be an on-site sewage disposal system, septic, and we'll be proposing to use the district water for domestic and fire protection. Next, please. And this is just a snapshot of what this site will look like. And it fits right in between these two industrial operations. There'll be one way into the site. That's on the right-hand side. That will be the only entrance to the site. Vehicles will park, passenger vehicles will park on the lower end, the upper end, and along the right side. Trucks will go around the site, circle around the site, and load and offload on the left-hand side of the site. Next, please. Here's a picture or rendering of what this site will look like from Leominster Shirley Road. Sets back in a bit from the roadway, we think it's from an industrial point of view, this building is very attractive and in our view, much more attractive than what's there today. Next, here's another shot from a different direction. Next one, please. And this is our assessment and our opinion on the public services that will be required as a result of this development and the potential fiscal impacts. It's our opinion that there will be a significant positive fiscal impact to the town in the manner of increased tax revenues. Right now, this is a highly unutilized site. We expect the taxes will be significantly greater than is imposed on the site at the moment. And there will be limited public impacts on public services. The project will provide approximately 325 new full-time permanent jobs based on the size of the building. The construction phase of the project will provide approximately 150 jobs, and we believe that there will be a indirect or secondary benefit to the town in the surrounding areas in increased customers for local businesses, including retail, restaurants, professional services, gas stations, etc. And since the project is non-residential, the impact on public services, in our opinion, is negligible, specifically when you consider impacts to the local school system. Unlike a multifamily housing development, there will not be an impact on the demand for school services. In addition to that, the building is self-contained. We don't anticipate any significant impacts on fire, EMS, or police, and we think that that would be de minimis. Next one, please. Now, what brings us here, and please interrupt me if you have any questions, what brings us here this evening is our engineering team. Hannigan Engineering has been working closely with all your the local departments, but particularly in this manner has been working with the director of the DPW, Mr. Rob Oliver, and both Rob and the outside peer review for the town of Lunenburg has reviewed this plan. Rob has made a number of comments and suggestions for alteration to the plan, and all of those suggestions and incorporations have been incorporated in, or are in the process of being incorporated into revised plans. Specifically, again, what brings us before you this evening is the proposed widening within the existing, or alteration within the existing town layout. And if you could go to the next slide, I think we could show you to it. Well, let me say, they're proposed along our site along the Leominster Shirley Road is approximately 580 feet. So we're proposing, and as I mentioned earlier, there'll be one way in and one way out. And so the widening, in order to accommodate a left turn lane, right now, those of you who are familiar with the Leominster Shirley Road know that it's one way in each direction. So in order to accommodate a left-hand turn into the site without impacting the flow of traffic in an easterly direction on Leominster Shirley Road, our engineers have suggested and have worked with Rob Oliver on this, the proposed left-hand turn lane, which would be located in the center of the way. And how we would accommodate that is we would expand the roadway, the paved roadway, by approximately 10 feet. And right now, the existing right-of-way is about 50 feet. And when we're finished, assuming that we're granted the permission to do so, when we're finished, there would be three ways, one going west, one going east, and the turning lane in the middle. So there'd be a total of about 32, 33 feet of roadway in front of our site. And again, all within the 50-foot right of town existing right of way. We'll also, and we've worked on this with the planning board members based on their suggestion, and we're coming back with some recommendations on enhanced signage along Leominster Shirley Road. And our traffic engineers who are there tonight are of the opinion that under future traffic volumes projected from this site. All movements along Leominster Shirley Road are expected to operate at optimum levels, and that the project's net new vehicle trips will not impact operations in the area. The next slide, please. So this is a snapshot of the front part of our site. You notice there that down the bottom, there's a little crosshatched area. That will be a turning lane to accommodate, that will be a striped area to accommodate a turning lane left into the site. And as we were working on this, our Bill Hannigan and Chris Anderson were working on this with Rob. He recommended that to deal with the widening here and to contemplate potential future needs by the town, that we consider granting to Lunenburg a 10-foot wide right-of-way on our site. And we plan to do that at no cost to the town of Lunenburg. And so that will take in, that will leave the same existing unpaved area as exists now, and as in the future, allow the town to plow snow in that area, or for the future, there is a need for expansion of the road or for sidewalks or things like that, that would be in place. So that would be a grant from the developer at no cost to the town. Next, please. And there's some of the proposed new signage we're proposing along Leominster Shirley Road, Lake Shore. As you know, that area down there, there's a fair amount of trucking right now and heavy vehicles. We want to make sure that people are proceeding along this road in a safe manner. Next slide, please. And that's it. That's the end of our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairperson and members of the board, or we have our experts there with you tonight who can, I'm sure if there are any technical questions, answer much more effectively and efficiently than I. But thank you again for the opportunity to present tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. I will open it up to the board. If anybody has any questions for anybody representing the applicant of what they saw. Mr. Marino.
So the proposed lanes are 10 feet, 12 feet, or 10 feet, 11 feet, 11 feet? Is that what it is?
Yes, the existing lanes are about 11 and a half feet, 11 and a half to 12, and the proposed additional paving will be about 10 feet. And so you got approximately, you will have about 30, when we're concluded, will be about 35 feet of pavement.
Is that standard, the lane widths? Is that some kind of standard that you work with?
I believe it is, and let me defer to, is Chris Anderson there? Our engineer or our traffic expert, they can answer, they can address that.
Yes, please.
Mr. Burko.
Eric Reese, GPI. We kind of followed MassDOT's standard designs for the type of roadway, and so for that roadway, 11 feet is more than acceptable. It's something we actually do in a lot of projects, is 11-foot lanes. So
It's acceptable, but do you think it's enough?
yeah, I do. I do think it's enough to have 11-foot. We have 11-foot lanes, and we did for the proposal was 11-foot turn lane, which can be 10, but since we do have trucks, we wanted to keep it at 11.
So that site is right at the bottom of the hill, am I correct?
Yes,
It is? Right at the
I
bottom?
believe so.
I just have a few concerns about that. That hill's pretty treacherous in the wintertime, and that traffic volume down there is probably much more than you would expect. Have you done a study yet?
We've gotten data for it, so yeah, there's a few hundred vehicles during the peak hour that in each direction that use
I'm
that.
sorry, how many?
So there's a few, I'd have to go back to I have the numbers in my thing for how much volume. Would you like how much volume uses the roadway?
Well, yeah, I mean, what, you have the numbers?
I should, yeah. Yeah, so it's right around by our site. Sorry, that's right next to our site. So in the morning, you're looking at between 200 and 250 vehicles in each direction
Per hour?
in the peak hour, in the AM peak hour, and then in the PM peak hour. I think it's about, I can get up to like 400 vehicles going westbound and about 150 to 200 going eastbound during the PM peak hours.
All right.
So definitely some traffic traveling. And yeah, if you are going westbound, you are going down the hill at that point, and that's part of the reason that we suggested having the left turn lane so that employees and trucks can get out of the way of travel.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, I'm just 10 feet doesn't seem like a lot to me. Or
It's 10
11
feet pavement, 11-foot lanes, 10-foot pavement.
10 feet of pavement.
10
Just
feet of
doesn't seem
additional
like-
pavement, there would be 11-foot lanes. Because it's, as Jack had said, it's, 11.5 to 12-foot lanes today. So we're going to bring those to 11-foot lanes for the through movements. So that additional foot would go towards you'd have the 10 feet of additional pavement plus that one additional foot to go to the left turn lane, to get you an 11-foot left turn lane.
All right. So when do you propose to begin this project, begin construction?
I can take that, Mr. Marino. It is, it will be based on when we finish our permitting here. And we hope to start by the end of the year. Will be weather dependent, or perhaps right after the first of the year, and depending on winter conditions. That's what we're pushing for, but it'll be contingent on the permitting process here. But that's what we expect to do it in that time period. And that will initially, there's a fair amount of site work involved on this site. So most of this, that really work will be on site work preparation.
Okay. All right. There's other issues down on Lemons to Shirley Road, right in that area that, and I guess I'm looking at you, Rob, when I say this, that maybe you and I had to talk about. We had a project going about 2 weeks prior to my retirement that never got off the ground, to try to clean up that corner just before this hill, which would enhance safety along that little corridor there. So at some point, if you could call me, I'll explain to you what Keating's was gonna do to that, and it just never got going, for a couple of pretty valid reasons. But I don't believe, or I do believe that they're still willing to do that, and they were willing to, pay for it as well. So, that's something that might enhance this project in terms of, traffic flow, because it's right in that area. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Marino.
I had a
Go
couple
ahead.
of comments, Mr. Chair, kind of following on to Mr. Marino's comments. So I share his concern, the corner at, I believe, the intersection of Reservoir Road and Lemonster Shirley Road, and as you take that corner as you're heading east, that's a very dangerous corner. So you can see, just based on your presentation, you have some increased signage there, but that certainly, I'm sure, is, in my view, one of the critical intersections. One of the other things you didn't mention was the increased volume of traffic that you anticipate. But I guess one of the things I'm also concerned about is I anticipate that most of your traffic is going to go to and from the site along Leominster Shirley Road, then down Fort Pond Road to access Route 2. So even now at peak times, that intersection with Leominster Shirley Road and Fort Pond Road can get pretty backed up. And I'm just wondering if the increased volume may necessitate a signal there as opposed to just a stop sign on Fort Pond Road for safety. So that'd be one thing that I'm sure that the planning board will want addressed and others, but that'd be a concern I'd have just based on first blush. Other than that, I mean, I do think it's in a great area of town for the project, and it looks like, you know, the perfect thing to put on the site. So I think these are all, you know, kind of minor issues that can be addressed.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the board?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair, just for my own edification and probably for others who may be wondering, well, also for others who may be wondering, the 10-foot pavement widening is going into the project site, correct? And then the easement for purposes of, say, shedding snow off the road and all, that's an additional 10 feet into the property? Is that, am I reading that properly?
Okay, yeah, if I'm understanding your question is, there will be an additional 10 feet of pavement within the right of way. But in addition to that, there will be, beyond the right of way, we will be granting to the town an easement on our property along the right of way. Yes, I think, I hope I answered that. I interpreted your question appropriately in the answer to that question.
And you gave me the answer I was looking for, so yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to interrupt here and just ask, because I just want to be clear, the 10 feet of widening is all 10 feet on the project side of the road? Yes, okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Mr. Marino?
May I again? Let me just be clear, too, that I'm asking all these questions out of concern, and that doesn't mean that I don't support your project, probably 150%, because I do. But when you're building, this is the time to get these problems straightened out, not afterwards. And I appreciate that you're gonna give the town a little bit of land on the side of the road. That's very important. But I guess I'm getting to a question here, and I want to address your traffic engineer again. Was there an accident study done on that stretch of road by any chance with your investigation?
We looked into crashes adjacent to our site along Leominster Shirley Road in a 5-year period. There was 2 accidents along the corridor of Leominster Shirley Road in that area within 5 years, so it averages to 0.4 accidents a year. I think one was injury, one was fatality, but from our study, neither can be fixed through engineering. They're just...
So that you concentrated that right in that area where you're building, right? You didn't go...
we were
that's the
concentrating
reason.
along Leominster Shirley Road because putting the site in, how would that affect
Yeah.
traffic right along Leominster Shirley Road, and at least as far as crashes go.
Well, the reason I ask, because it will affect it, because you're gonna increase traffic volume, whether it's 300 employees or not. You're gonna have an increased traffic volume. We've had issues with many traffic accidents at the intersection of Fort Pond Road and Leominster Shirley Road. We've had accidents at Reservoir Road and Leominster Shirley Road. That's been problematic. As a matter of fact, that's what I was alluding to there. Keatings was willing to cut back that embankment to straighten that corner out,
Yeah.
because 90% of the time, you come around the corner and you're right into a Euclid crossing the road. So those are all concerns that I have.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, I wish you'd at least share my concerns, that's all. And I know, I right away, when a resident found out about this, this project, I got an email from that person, with the same concerns, and they're legitimate. If you come up Reservoir Road, try to take a left on the Leominster Shirley Road, or even if you're traveling, westerly, or easterly rather, on Leominster Shirley Road, making that corner and then, descending that hill, can be treacherous, especially in the wintertime, because it does produce some runoff down there because it's all ledge along the side of the road, particularly up by Keating's office. So just share my concerns, that's all.
Oh,
Believe me, the project's great. I hope you build it tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I'll be the first one volunteering to put a shovel in the ground if you'd like. Because this is really what Lunenburg needs.
Yeah.
Please share my concerns. This is the time now to make it safe. I guarantee you, you've got traffic going, that road extends into air, which goes right by Fort Evans. I travel that road a lot because now I'm working on West Main Street now, which is essentially Leominster Shirley Road in Lunenburg. It's the same road. And I know what the traffic volume is. I know you got numbers, but our numbers, quite frankly, the police department's numbers never jive with the traffic engineer's numbers for some reason. Now, I don't know if our trailer that we use, our computer, is a little happier than yours or what, but I drive that road, and it seems like there's a lot of traffic on it, a lot more than you would think. And I just want you to be concerned about my concerns, that's all.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, they're definitely, what you bring up are definitely things we look at every project. Even like you said, it's sight distance problem. Can you see around a curve? These are things we usually delve into.
Yeah, and the winters are tough, so keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
Roads get narrow, so the 11 feet goes to 8 feet or 9 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
That's no reflection on you. It just happens, you know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent plan for this parcel of land, so thank you for coming today with this presentation. My questions are limited, and one follow-up as well to what's already been mentioned, but the first is, what are you distributing?
So, Mr. Jeffries, this is a speculative office building, industrial building. We don't have a tenant yet. We have general ideas of who our prospective tenants are. This market today is a very competitive one, and the tenant, we're not building it. It's not a built-to-suit project, and so tenants are reluctant to commit well in advance because they don't know if it's going to get permitted, they don't know if it's going to get built. But we expect it to be a warehouse, normal warehouse, a distribution type of facility. And that's the, whether it's a food distribution, hardware, or restaurant equipment, something in those general areas. But that's the most specific I can get.
All right, I know distribution's broad. Do you think it's possible that a prospective tenant could be companies such as Amazon?
I don't know. I mean, they've got a lot of space in the greater Lunenburg area, and this is certainly not being designed for Amazon. We've had no discussions with them, but we're not precluding them either. But I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say most likely not.
And based on your projections, I know that I can hear you say that you don't have the tenants, yet. But based on your projections, what is kind of the range of truck volume that you're anticipating in the course of a typical business day?
Yeah. So the traffic engineer can address that, and how that is done is under the traffic analysis code, there's a certain code applied to warehouse distribution, and based on the size, they do a projection of traffic. And if Eric, you could address that, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. So we use the Institute for Traffic Engineers generation manual. They have the 10th edition right now, and we, as Jack just said, we take the size of the building, in this case 372,000 square feet, and we use that with what we use as a land use code as a warehousing building, and it told us that on the average weekday daily trips, you'd have 208 truck trips.
Okay.
So that'd be 104 entering and 104 exiting.
Okay. So 104 trucks roughly is your kind of target range. Plus, I mean, you're not going to have 325 employees there every day. So, I mean, I'm sure that there will be
Yeah,
quite
exactly.
less
Just
than
it's just
that.
an average.
All right. So on average, I mean, it's going to have an impact. So I think the problems with traffic precede, of course, this project. You know, I've spoken about the issues coming off of the highway from Fort Pond Road, or I think that's the name of it, several times. And I would expect that if you're increasing the traffic load notably, that there probably would be a need for us to get a light there.
As far as our project impact on Fort Pond Road, it's not very heavy because most of the issues of Fort Pond Road are left turners.
Yep.
Any vehicles we'd be bringing in would be right turn, and from the traffic analysis we've done, the PM peak hour seems to be the worst for that intersection, and during the let me pull it up. I just had it in front of me. So during the PM peak hour, we're projecting, 4 employees and 6 trucks to be making that right turn.
Okay.
So, I mean, when I say, 200 or 104 trucks, it's throughout the entire day.
And operation time period, is that 12-hour operations, or is that?
I'm honestly not sure, and it would depend on the facility, because not all of them, some of them run 24 hours, and some would only run like 12 hours. So I'm not sure, but like when it comes to trucks, not as many trucks are going to be coming into the site at PM peak hour when most people might be driving around to head home.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a left turner, so the concern is always the trucks coming from the right that need to turn left.
Yes.
And then you're kind of stuck there. And, and I know one time that road was backed up to Route 2, but that was very exceptional and not usually the case. So I just want to be clear on what was said previously. So it looks as though the roads as they exist now are 11.5 to 12 feet lanes, 2 of them. And so you're looking to reduce that lane size down to 11 and then add in a left turn lane as well, that's 11 feet. Why not just have them all 11.5-foot lanes?
The whole point was we wanted to, as long as you give me an answer. The whole point was we wanted to have all the widening happen on the site side by not affecting any right-of-way or any impervious pavement on the other side of the road. So in order to do that, to keep pavement within the town right-of-way, we went with 11-foot lanes.
When I was a younger man, I slid down that hill. It's one of the unreported accidents. I slid down that hill in a snowstorm. And, it may be, from my perspective, I don't have any conflict with what you're proposing today. What I would recommend is that the lanes as they are now are 11.5, to keep that, and maybe consider with PJ Keating, another foot on the other side of the road as well. Because trucks are big, and not every driver is going to stay within those lines as they get ready to turn. And then you have a potential impediment on the people who are trying to travel eastbound if they can't necessarily get by because the truck's too far over. So it just seems to me that, if you're looking at adding, it seems to me that maybe it would be good to keep the lanes as big as feasible or possible.
Yeah,
But
we
otherwise, I really do appreciate all the work that you guys have done. And this sounds like a really great opportunity for you guys and a great opportunity for our community as well.
Well, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I just ask one other?
Franco.
Don't take this the wrong way, because I totally support this as well, like Mr. Jeffries and Mr. Marino. You said 2 things that I love, and that is increased tax revenue and de minimis impact or need for public services. That's a happy calculus. But 208 trucks a day, trucks are rough on roads. That's going to damage the road in the long term. How does that get addressed in the long term? Maybe this is a question for the DPW director. Do we just absorb that as a town and we cover it with the additional tax revenue we're getting? How does that? It's going to damage the roads. the trucks going in and out of there.
Yeah, I don't know how to address that.
You don't have to. You don't have to. Our DPW director will address that.
Okay.
As of one of my comments to the planning board on this project, one of my concerns was the physical abuse to the roads. It's not, I don't believe it's something we can necessarily deal with after the fact. We can only deal with it now. I mean, once they're there, they're there. I know Leominster Shirley Road is due to be paved in the future. It hasn't yet, so there's opportunity to take some time and see what happens once this facility's up and running. But as far as, the developer and how do you work with them on this situation, that's a really good question. And whether they wanted to make a gift to the town now or work with us somehow, that's certainly something that the planning board could ask for in their site plan approval process. But yeah, that's a very good question and a concern of mine.
Well, let me follow up on that. We probably have a road that we could use as a model of what this would be like, and that's Pioneer Drive. Pioneer Drive is nothing but trucks on multiple industrial buildings, and we have a paving record there. How often does it get paved?
That's a good question. I don't know the last time when.
Well, that would be the answer to that, is to see what happened with
Yeah.
Pioneer Drive, which only has, the cars going through to the Target shopping center is nothing compared to the, 5 or 6 industrial buildings that have nothing but trucks all day, so.
It was about 3 years ago that it was paved, because I remember I called Leominster to ask them to pave it because of how awful the road was.
They said it's ours.
No, they said that actually
they didn't
it's
say
the
that.
responsibility of the companies that are along that road.
Well, that's what Leominster does, but
Yeah,
it's
But
not
they
the
did it
it's not the
anyway.
responsibility of the company.
that's an industrial road, and it was created for that purpose. I can offer, we have our own test bed out there now because we do have a lot of truck traffic because of Keatings. So the stretch from Fort Pond Road to Reservoir basically
Right.
would be your example. And, at the moment, it's in pretty decent shape. Every road has issues, but considering the amount of traffic that already gets, with conceivably heavier loads, hauling asphalt out of there is probably going to be more than some of the, I'm assuming, some of the loads they'll be hauling out of this facility.
I think some of the tonnage from Keatings has got to far outweigh what tractor trailers are going to be on a warehouse.
Yeah, I'd venture to guess that. So, and maybe that's a discussion I can have with the developer now or with Adam in terms of moving forward with site plan approval. Again, I did comment on it, and that's a concern of mine, is what's the long-term harm to our roads? If there's something we can do now with the developer, with the proponent of the project, I'd love to do something.
I agree. I think it's got to be a shared responsibility, and I think that if you, and I heard from the rest of the board, I haven't spoken to you about it yet, but everybody's supportive of the idea, and we want people to build in industrial zone areas. Well, this is what comes of that, and maybe you have to re-engineer the road now that it's really fulfilling the zoning that it has, and you have to engineer the road for, just more use and more heavy use. But if there's, obviously there's a shared responsibility there because it's in the industries in the area's best interest that the roads are in good condition too, since no one wants truck breakage or anything happening to equipment as it goes over there. So whether it's the trucks themselves or the contents of the trucks, nobody wants anything happening to them. Did you have any further questions?
I just had a call. It seems as if a net gain overall to the town having this business there, and that through tax dollars that they'd more than pay for the services that they're actually using. But roads are, as you know, are built to different standards. Is it possible to build that road to a higher standard, similar to highways?
That's what I just said.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yes, you could.
And is that something, and this is probably a question more for us, is that a cost then that we need to export, or is that something that we just plan for, that when we repave that section of road, that it's just built to a different standard?
I mean, building that road to a different standard would be a major construction project, because you're basically taking the asphalt out, re-engineering the subbase, and building a new road. So it's not necessarily something I would want to see the town undertake. It might be possible to look for grants or even possibly a tip project or some other means of funding to accomplish that. But it would be a big project. Not something that I think we'd want to, you probably couldn't cover it with Chapter 90 funds and taking it out of pavement management. I just don't think we don't have those kinds of funds available for what I'm kind of envisioning to be what would be required. But it's something you could look for other funding sources.
Do we have a history of raising road concerns to PJ Keating?
Like,
None that I'm
it's like
aware of.
safety concerns.
Yeah, and they're pretty good about maintaining the roads that they use right around the plant there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Marino, third time.
To put it in perspective, in terms of road use, these trucking companies pay huge road use taxes, excise taxes, and so forth. And those are the funds that are used, or should be used theoretically, to maintain the roads that they drive on. So I don't see where we have any authority really to even ask, because that's what that money's for. And I'm telling you from experience, and you know that, the taxes they pay to use the roads.
Yep.
So that's really where the money should come from, but does it?
Well, let me take a broad guess that they don't pay that tax to Lunenburg. They pay that tax to the
State
state.
of Massachusetts.
Well, yeah,
Well, I'll let that speak for itself.
well, that's why I
So,
said doesn't.
Lunenburg truck traffic as a fraction of the state's truck traffic, I don't think we'd register in the top, I'm gonna say, of the 351 communities, maybe we'd be at 160, 170. Somewhere in that range would be my guess.
Yeah, but despite that, it's not fair to ask them for more money, even
Well,
though
I
the
don't
state-
disagree with the point. I'm just saying, to say that it should be paid for, I mean, I was going to say that they made the point of the taxes that would come in would have a minimal impact on all the other services, and so therefore, that kind of offsets it as well. But I also think it's a shared responsibility and whatever we can do, and again, I don't mean to add or ask any extra, but it's certainly a conversation worth having. Because, again, if they build a beautiful facility and the road decays to such a degree where it gets problematic, it's not in their best interest either. So I think this is a discussion that really needs to be had at the planning board in full, as the whole traffic discussion is too. I think they're both very valid points that will be taken up in the site plan approval. So if I can add my own personal commentary, I said, first of all, I would also agree that I am very supportive of the project. Using our industrial and commercial areas is important to the town, and we don't have people pouring into the industrial zones that we have, so it's nice to see one being used for this purpose. It seems like you have a very thoughtful plan. Obviously, the two most key components, without going into further detail and rehashing what's already been said, is the number of traffic vehicles, both employees and trucks, and then the existing safety conditions would all have to be discussed with the planning board. And then the condition of the road, or the wear and tear on the road because of the increased truck traffic. I don't know what general tonnage is of what you'll be, since you don't know what you're warehousing yet, you don't probably know that either. But it's gonna have more wear and tear than cars, but again, it's zoned industrial, and so we obviously should have foreseen this at some point anyway. And I welcome that challenge, given the fact that we're developing that land, or you guys are developing that land. So, again, I'm in full support, 100% behind the project, and look forward to more discussions as you further the permitting process through the planning board.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your comments all. And just as we go forward and have those discussions, one of the board members mentioned that the likelihood is that the weight of these trucks, it probably are much less than the Keating trucks are. So what you might be adding is trips as opposed to weight, in my view. Yeah.
Yep. And also, we also have Powell Stone and Gravel, which is again,
Right, right.
earth-moving equipment, which is also,
Yeah.
again, very high-weight vehicles, so.
Yep, yep.
Anybody else have any comments? Madam Town Manager, do you have any comments?
No, I don't.
Questions?
I'll keep in touch with Mr. Brennan,
Thank you.
as well as speak with the DPW director and land use director as this moves forward.
And please keep the board, we don't do this with every project, but of this, please keep the board apprised of, or ask the planning board to keep the board apprised of when they're having hearings for this, so anybody on the board here who wants to attend remotely or in person can do that.
Yeah, I believe their first hearing is September 13th.
So Heather, that's our second hearing.
Oh, second.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, again, I appreciate your whole team for coming. I did find it ironic that the person who spoke the most stayed in the back of the room, so that was interesting. Good. But I thank the whole team for coming, and I do wish you the best as you go through the permitting process.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we move to interviews, appointments, reappointments, and resignations. We have 2 town manager appointments looking for ratification. First is temporary recreation director Robert Thompson.
Yes. So tonight, there are 2 positions, both that fall under the DPW. The first, the temporary recreation director, Robert Thompson. The second being a facilities custodian, Donald Gagney. And Robert, he has previous experience as a recreation manager, as a contractor for the U.S. Army, and more recently as a recreational manager for Alternative Perspectives of Devens. And so he comes recommended by the DPW director and the HR director. They did the interviews and presented a finalist for me to appoint. And secondly, Donald Gagney has previous experience as a facilities custodian for the last 2 years for the Acton-Boxborough Regional School District, and 23 years prior to that as a maintenance superintendent for a private company. So both come highly recommended. I don't know if Mr. Oliva would like to say any more about the 2 candidates.
So the temporary recreation director, Mr. Thompson, he's a local resident right in town, very energetic. He loves recreation. He already had ideas. So I think in the interim to fill in, I already have some thoughts for him, but seems like a very good candidate, willing to fill in. So I was happy to find him, or happy that he came to us. Mr. Gagney, as town manager said, he's got 20-plus years' experience in building maintenance in Fitchburg in one of their residential facilities. And the only reason he left that job was the management company changed and things changed, and he ended up at Acton-Boxborough. But very well-versed HVAC, plumbing, electrical, just the kind of candidate we needed to take some of the load off of Kit's back. So again, a very good candidate. I think actually we're lucky to get him because it's probably a step down salary-wise for him, but he wants to be back on a day shift and working. He's another local gentleman. I believe he just moved to, he's still local. He's not in Lunenburg, but he's local. So this was a good fit for him, and I think a good fit for us, and very knowledgeable. So again, pretty happy he's coming on board.
Has the temporary recreational director met with the Parks Commission?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think that was probably putting the cart before the horse.
But Mr. Oliva, you've kept them apprised of the process?
Yep. I spoke to the chairperson. She knows. We've talked to him that I like him. I will introduce him at their next meeting.
Okay. Any questions about either appointment?
None.
If not, I would entertain a motion to ratify the appointment of a temporary recreation director, Robert Thompson, and a facilities custodian, Donald Gagné.
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Happy to fill those two positions.
Mr. Chair,
Wait.
so
Mr.
gee, I was gonna take advantage of you being here tonight. As part of my town manager's report, I had a few DPW updates. I don't know if you wanna take those instead. The Pleasant Street Bridge.
So the Pleasant Street Bridge is now open to two-way traffic. There's a couple of items left to be done, but in light of the fact that school was starting and the year was getting into swing, we wanted it open. Essentially, we're going to provide some fence behind the guardrail just as a barrier, and then the line striping needs to be done. So that's open. We're just going to get a change order for the fence. And then he'll be back his fence company will be back to do that, and his striping contractor to do the striping. So that's Pleasant Street Bridge. For the most part, it's very near completion. Structurally speaking, traffic's on it. It's fine. Everything's great. So I'm happy about that. And other things, the sidewalk project downtown, he was supposed to be back today. He was not. So I've got to call him tomorrow and find out what's going on. But he was going to be back working this week. He was waiting for the flashing beacons at the Memorial Drive Main Street crosswalk where those ramps went in. There was a long lead time on those, typical supply chain issues. It kept getting pushed back, but he thought he had them, but they haven't been delivered, so I don't believe he has them. So that may have something to do with the fact he wasn't back today. But the pine tree's gone, as you probably all know, so that sidewalk is going to go basically in the location with the one change we talked about, where it'll go by the town sign to the crosswalk at Mass Ave, and we'll actually redo that ramp as well, so clean that all up. The other project, the Mass Ave Bridge, if you saw my post, I know town manager shared my post, that's actually getting detoured tonight. They're changing the traffic pattern to move the lanes over. The original concept on that was they were going to open 2 lanes of traffic during phase 2, which is going to start tonight. It was figured out that there was no room for pedestrians in either phase 1 or phase 2. I personally sat there and watched people figuring out, what do I do? So at, I believe, the urging of the contractor doing the project, the state has revised that plan. It's going to continue to be 1 lane of traffic with the temporary traffic lights, and that's only anticipated to take a couple of months. So the contractor's pretty confident it'll be a month and a half to 2 months to finish that, in which case I believe after that it opens up to traffic. And then I had one.
Line striping.
Line striping.
Lane striping.
Oh, Sunday night, they're coming. So I finally got that locked down. I knew there was something. So we're doing Whalum Electric intersection at the lights, so that'll get all redone the way it was. We're going to go down Townsend Harbor Road with a stripe. Even though we're not done paving there, we're going to come back probably next year to do a top coat on that. We should have that line in there, so I'll do a double yellow line. And then we are doing Prospect Street as well. So
I have 2 questions since
Sure.
you're here. Number 1 is you talked about the sidewalks, and there were questions about the ADA compliance of the ramps.
Yes.
And have we have an answer from that yet?
I talked to the engineer today. So an inspector was out last week to look at them. He looked at all of them. His initial response was he felt they were all in compliance. I talked to Vice President of the company this afternoon, or emailed. He responded to me, and as far as he knows, they've all been looked at. They're all compliant. I don't know exactly what the issue is with the one ramp that was in the Facebook post. I can follow up with the gentleman who made the comments
I would recommend that.
and see if he'd like to take a look at it with me and get exactly what his concerns are. I think I know what they are, but I don't think they make it non-compliant. So I'll talk to him personally and get to the bottom of it.
And the second one is, although it wasn't on here, but we're talking about striping and everything, and I've had this, seems like eternal, but it's got to be 5-year, 6-year push to try to get a marked crosswalk at the Whalum Rotary. Like, how do you get across the street there? And the last 2 times I asked, they're like, well, it doesn't connect any driveway, any sidewalks, so therefore we're not going to put one in. but they're still talking about pedestrians trying to figure things out, like at the Mass Ave Bridge. When you get there, you don't know where it's safe to cross. As a pedestrian, you don't know where you're supposed to cross, and therefore, if you're a motorist, you don't know where people are supposed to cross. So I will yet again resurrect that there should be a way, especially leading from the Emerald Place over the lakeside, going toward the town beach.
Is
So-
there sidewalk that dead ends?
Yeah, there's no sidewalk on the other side.
I'm sure there's none, but
Yeah.
people walk that to
Yeah.
get to the, because there's no sidewalk doesn't mean that people don't walk that. I know plenty of people who walk that, and they just want a safe place to
Yeah.
go to.
And I understand that, and I won't make light of it, but there are kind of warrants for crosswalks. And we looked at this on Townsend Harbor Road because we had residents actually request a crosswalk on the section of Townsend Harbor Road at the lake, where they have property on the lake and their homes on the other side of the road. And they were told, we can't do crosswalk there. And it's primarily because there's no sidewalks. So I have to go back and look at the Mass DOT.
Right. I didn't say I was going to be successful. I said I was going to resurrect the idea.
And I understand your point.
I guess the
and-
first time when something happens over there, then somebody will say, you know what, we should put a crosswalk there, but I hope that doesn't happen, obviously.
Ultimately, I would like sidewalk in that area to
Well,
connect the town beach.
I'm glad, that was part of the walk, as you, I don't know if you know, maybe you know in
Right.
retrospect, but that's what the whole, safe, complete streets was about, and why we did the survey here in center of town, and we did one at Whalum, and we just wanted to concentrate at the center of town, because we had the senior center and the teen center,
Yep.
the Boys and Girls Club, and other things, and not even connecting sidewalk, the town hall to the Ritter Building. So, we went with that, but that was the next big area that people obviously wanted it to.
Okay.
I'm asking for, from a safety standpoint, again, I get asked, I don't want to say I don't want to overblow it,
Yeah.
but I get asked several times a year about that, so
I will certainly look into it.
I appreciate it.
I have one comment. I was coming out of the Walmart Hannaford complex the other day, and I was at the Mass Ave intersection. And I noticed on Mass Ave 2A westbound, the left turn lane that goes on Electric Avenue, I think the stop line had been worn off, because I watched a gentleman who stopped about 30 feet in front of where the stop line should have been. And I think he sat through probably 4 or 5 lights because he wasn't triggering the turn lane. So if you guys can look at that to see if you can get it remarked, that stop line.
That's a contact to Mass DOT.
Okay.
So I'll make that contact.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They usually do that in the fall. They repaint that in the fall.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I mean, I don't know if they'll put it in the right place, but.
Well, there's also an issue there too with people in the very right-hand lane heading to Fitchburg, going straight through.
Yep.
And some people, there used to be a sign, I don't know if it's there anymore, right turn, right lane, right turn
It's still
only.
there.
I think it's still there. It's kind of far back, so, but I know Chief Gamble.
We're allowed to
is-
put the sign, but you can't put the arrow, you can't to enforce the sign. How that works, I
Yeah.
really,
Well, I think Mass DOT's original was that they can't make it a right turn only.
Oh, yeah, we fought that fight.
Yeah. So
Do it.
at some point, someone agreed to put the sign in, or maybe someone else put it in. But, yeah, so I know that's still kind of up in the air, and they were going to do a traffic study. And we haven't heard back anything, so it's a good time for me to reach out to them.
The only other 2 things I had under DPW were the public safety building training room, that there's
So-
mold discovered there.
Yeah, so there was mold discovered in the training room. It was growing on the chairs and kind of on the desks. So we pulled all the chairs out. They were professionally cleaned. We had the carpet was shampooed, and then we had the cleaning company who's under contract with the town for town buildings go in and do a thorough clean down of all the furniture. There was no mold on the walls or on the ceiling that we found. So it's all been cleaned. We've got dehumidifiers in the room now, and they're getting emptied often, so there's a lot of humidity in that room, a lot of
I
moisture.
was gonna ask.
Yeah. I'm in contact with a company to come in and do some air quality testing. I'm waiting on his proposal. He did some work recently for us at the Ritter Building on testing some materials for the work in the kitchen. I know he's busy, but he's going to get me a proposal. We talked about testing in the room, testing outside the room, upstairs, outside, so we'll take a look at it. I know the people who use that building are concerned, and so we want to make sure there's nothing going on.
I know how to fix that from happening again.
What's that?
I know how to fix that. Build a carport.
Well, I mean, honestly, the carpet, I'd love to see the carpet go and have something else.
Carport.
Carport.
Oh, build the carport. Well, I'm assuming that there's with the drainage issues there, it's probably stays fairly, when all the rain we've had, fairly saturated under that pad for the building, especially around that part of the building. So that could certainly factor into it. But
Carport would cure it.
Is that room not air conditioned?
no, it is, and that's another issue. It doesn't, if I understand this correctly, it runs, to run air conditioning in that room and to get it tempered, it runs both heat and AC. When it gets to a certain point, there's a valve that does not work correctly all the time, so it has to go in and basically hit it with a hammer to get the valve to operate correctly, which he thinks he has it operating correctly now. And the thought being that if it's just running strictly AC, and that room is always cold, we're not removing any of the moisture from the room with the HVAC system. So he's worked on that, hoping that helps as well. I think having the dehumidifiers in there will provide a lot of relief. But we're looking at it, and we'll hopefully we don't find more. Hopefully it was an isolated incident just related to the moisture at the time. But we'll see.
And the only other thing is I wanted to thank the DPW director for getting the roadside mowing done on Lancaster and Leominster roads.
And that was
Big improvement.
A local resident, Mr. Ray Moran, has that equipment and went out and did it for us. Of course, at a cost to the town, but it was sorely overdue, so it needed to happen. I'm going to have him a couple more days in a couple other spots that really need to be done. But this is, it'll come in on my capital plan this year. This is the same piece of equipment that I'm looking to get for the department so that we can basically canvass the entire town year after year and do this mowing. So that's something I really want. And you can see the result when it's done. It makes a huge difference.
Well, I think canvassing the town in preparation of getting the equipment is probably a great idea, because, I know, I work from home, so there's not a whole lot of in-town driving that I do often, but on those times that I do, there are some places that are just, the sightlines are terrible.
Oh, yeah. We get multiple calls, people who, at intersections, they can't back out of their driveway. So at the moment, our machine that we do have, which is inadequate for the job at hand, had been broken down for several weeks while we waited for a part. Again, supply chain issues, we couldn't get the part from Canada. Finally came in. That machine actually just went back out today. So it's capable of hitting the kind of the lower growing vegetation, the grassier type vegetation. It can't handle trees and limbs and bushes, and where the piece of equipment I'm looking for is much more aggressive, and basically you can take down an 8-inch tree with it if you really wanted to. Not that I will, but you can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for the DPW director.
Mr. Jeffers?
I'm just, I know that some residents were concerned about drainage at Flat Hill, and I know that you've been in communication with them, so do you have an update about where you're at with that?
Yeah, so my conversations with the property owners that are most affected by that, I was hoping to pursue an option where we discharge drainage to the back of their properties rather than taking it somewhere else. Because I believe that's where it's naturally gone until changes out there were made. Those conversations weren't fruitful. Basically, I've gone back to our engineer to say, we've got to go back to Plan A, essentially, and so they're looking at that now. I was hoping to have something by now, but I know they're busy, so they're working on it. But we're looking at other options. There was a conceptual plan that had been presented when I first came on board. with that. I don't necessarily like the full scope of that, so we're looking at kind of the existing drainage that's in Page Street and how can we use that. And I've been out, just personally, some of these bigger storms, I've been out there to look at the runoff and where it's going and some of the issues that have been brought to our attention. I haven't necessarily seen all of them. I've seen some of it. I know there was discussion about water from Cortland that was flowing over Flat Hill, further down Flat Hill. I have yet to see that. Not to say it doesn't happen. We've had some pretty serious storms over the last few years. But we're looking at other options still, but more or less based on the conceptual plans that were presented.
All right, and I know that the last time we talked about this, I think that was a similar update to what you're saying tonight. Do you have a timeline from the engineer and when they're going to have a different?
I don't. I'll talk to him. It was 2 or 3 weeks ago that I last talked to him, and he thought he was going to try and squeeze something in, but apparently wasn't able to. So I'll talk to him and see if I can get a timeline or give him a timeline.
All right, and I think that I've heard a lot of positive comments, Rob, about DPW and specifically to you. So I want you to know that a lot of people have a lot of positive things to say about the job that you're doing for the town. I think it's recognized by all of us, and I certainly appreciate it as well.
Well, I thank you.
Mr. Chair, I if I could, sorry.
It's quite all right. I'm here.
This is like 8 or 9 topics ago, but I just couldn't let it go. So, this is a question or just a comment, depending on whether or not you can actually answer this. But going back to the Whalum crosswalk suggestion, which I totally appreciate your point, Mr. Chair, but that's dangerous and figuring out what to do there. But I suspect that they don't allow crosswalks where there aren't sidewalks on both sides, because then we'd be implicitly condoning walking to a place where you're not supposed to be walking. Like if there's just a dirt path on the other side of the road, you shouldn't be walking there anyway. So a crosswalk that leads to that says, go ahead and walk on this dangerous dirt path.
It's my understanding it's more of one sidewalk. If you've got one and then some sort of destination on the other side to take you to, could be up or down the road, but some general destination that might be of public interest. So I have
Like
to go
a town
back.
beach, maybe.
Well, yeah. So, but yeah, so there are definitely warrants and there's, guidelines to go by. I just have to go back and read them.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, now I'm going to turn
thought,
around.
Yeah.
You thought you're like 15 feet from freedom.
No,
You
that's
will
all
go
right.
undeterred now.
Wait. Oh, no, I'm kidding.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Hi, Rob.
Okay, town manager report, a now abbreviated version.
Yes. One topic class. So start with the announcement of existing vacancies. There are 2 vacancies on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, 1 citizen at large and 1 representative from the Historical Commission, 1 vacancy on the Bylaw Review Committee, 1 vacancy for a citizen at large position appointed by the town moderator on the Capital Planning Committee, 2 vacancies on the Commissioner of Trust Funds, which is a joint appointment between the Commissioner of Trust Funds and the Select Board until the next annual town election. Multiple vacancies on the Economic Development Committee, 1 vacancy on the Senior Work-Off Program Committee, and 1 associate vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Interested parties can find the application forms on the town website and complete the forms and send them back to the Select Board's office. For current employment opportunities with the town, we just removed 2 tonight, so that was good. We still have remaining a board and committee clerk position, which is a part-time, non-benefited position, digital services staff librarian, which is a part-time benefited position, assistant to the sewer business manager position, which is a part-time, non-benefited position, 1 seasonal cemetery laborer position, a public access videographer position, which is a part-time, non-benefited position, and our remote meeting coordinator, Neil Trahan, gave his notice which will be effective September 15th. So we will have the remote meeting coordinator position vacant. More information on each of these positions can be found on the job postings, which are located on the town website. An update on the principal assessor position. As previously reported to the board, the current principal assessor is retiring effective September 23rd. The assistant town manager, HR director advertised the position after receiving this notification from the current principal assessor, and we received 4 applications, one which did not have any assessing experience. We conducted interviews the week of August 16th and chose Christine Kumar as the next principal assessor. Christine comes from the town of Littleton as their assistant assessor, and prior to that position, she worked in the assessor's office in the towns of Shrewsbury and Gardner. I appointed Christine to the position last week, and the Board of Assessors ratified the appointment at their meeting on August 31st, per the process in the town charter. Christine began working today and will be able to work with Sue Byrne for a couple weeks before she retires. So
There was actually somebody who applied for a principal assessor position that had no assessing experience.
Correct.
Just want to make sure I read that right.
Update on the home rule petitions for Jack's Country Variety and the Library Trust Fund's home rule petition. We were notified by Representative Sina's office last week that the bill for an additional all-alcohol liquor license for Jack's Country Variety has passed through the legislature. The executive assistant has contacted the owner of Jack's Country Variety about the next steps in the process, which it will have to come back before the board. And a copy of the final act will be sent in to ABCC as part of the process. The bill to authorize the Library Board of Trustees to invest the library trust funds has received its second reading in the legislature, and I've asked Representative Sina's office to keep me informed of the progress of this bill. Authorize changes to the assessor's records on certain town properties. The Conservation Commission has researched certain parcels of land that were incorrectly identified as under the care of the Conservation Commission instead of the Select Board. The principal assessor has verified through the related town meeting votes and related deeds, and will be making the following changes to the assessor's property records files. 510 Townsend Harbor Road. This parcel needs to be split into 2 parcels, the front parcel under the care and control of the Select Board, and the rear parcel under the care and control of the Conservation Commission. The front parcel is an old dump that was purchased at the March 5th, 1938 annual town meeting through Article 32, which voted $225 to purchase 33 acres. Little history lesson there. This parcel was never assigned to the Conservation Commission. The rear parcel was acquired for conservation purposes. 25 Fire Road 19, which is Lake Shirley Dam. This parcel was never transferred or acquired for conservation purposes. The land and dam were given to the town from Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation at the August 25th, 1987 special town meeting. 75 Lakefront Avenue, which is the Whalum waterfront area. There is no record, town meeting or deed, of this parcel being transferred to the Conservation Commission. So this will be recorded back under the Select Board's care. 374 Page Street. There is no record, town meeting or deed of this parcel being transferred to Conservation Commission. So, and also of note that this parcel does not meet the Conservation Commission's criteria for passive conservation land. So those changes will be made to our records.
So I have a question.
Mr. Jeffries.
Is it possible for us to, nothing urgent here, but to get a list of all the properties that are under the care, custody, and control of the Select Board? And where they're located at?
I can get that.
Thank you.
Update on 925 Mass Ave. The DEP LUS coordinator reported that he will be contacting his EPA counterpart this week and that there is a meeting on September 14th to discuss pooling of various federal funding sources to close out some of Massachusetts loss releases. So hopefully we receive positive feedback after that meeting, and there'll be available resources through that funding source. Disposition of parcel 7 of 671 West Street. In November of 2020, we went out to bid for parcel 7 of the town-owned land at 671 West Street, based on an inquiry by a butter of this parcel that was interested in purchasing the property. After advertising for the required time frame, we did not receive a bid from this resident. The resident recently contacted me to restate their interest in the parcel, and that due to the uncertainty of the pandemic, did not submit a bid the first time it was advertised, but they are now in a different position. I relayed to the resident that the Open Space Committee has since approached the board about transferring this parcel from general municipal land to open space recreation purposes. I would recommend we do not re-advertise for any portion of this land until a decision is made regarding the Open Space Committee's request.
Personally, I would concur with that.
Are you looking for?
If any comment?
I'm not, I think I was pretty cold about, cold water on the idea of that parcel going to open space because it's the last large parcel that the town owns in the Whalum area. So I am in favor of advertising a small section of it to go to the resident because I'm not in favor of the larger parcel being used for open space.
Personally, I'm in favor of holding it for now,
So not re-advertising.
to not re-advertise at this time.
Does the resident have a reason why they want to purchase that land?
That's abuts their current land. Again, we could show you the whole diagram. This happened when the town manager's predecessor was here, and there was some jagged ends to a large piece of property there, and in order to, wanting to straighten the border out, we wanted to offer people who this land was abutted the back part of their property to buy it to square off their property.
Oh, I do remember that.
And that's what this was. And so they reinstituted their interest, but then because the pandemic said they couldn't do it, and now so they didn't put in a bid when we advertised, and in order for them to put in a bid, we have to advertise again, so.
So, I mean, I don't see the harm in allowing that to happen. It can't be a huge piece of land. I mean, the Open Space Committee, how is that gonna benefit them? It's gonna benefit the resident, right?
Right.
By squaring his land off. It can't be some huge piece of property.
No, I'm sure it's probably not a whole lot.
So I'm not in favor of that either. I think the resident should have a shot at it. Let him, increase the value of his property for a small parcel of land. Don't see why they need it.
Well, there's no guarantee that if we advertise, the owner's gonna bid on it again.
No, but he obviously was interested, and then, of course, the pandemic just, I'm sure somehow got in the way.
Yep.
Like it did with a lot of other things, so. no.
Yeah. I just have two comments, I guess. One, the time it took the assistant town manager to go through the whole process of advertising and putting the bid together was fruitless the first time. So, second, that my recommendation is basically until a decision is made on the overall, what the plan is for that property. That's why I would think it would be more useful to hold on to the whole piece, and then if it's decided to retain it for general municipal purposes, then put out to bid for that parcel.
We were talking about a half an acre, right? I mean, if I recall this parcel,
It's a small
yeah,
piece.
out of like a 40-something acre.
Right.
Piece.
How much would the cost advertising it?
It's nominal. It's a very small amount for the cost.
Well,
Yeah.
that means out-of-pocket cost, but
Yeah.
how about, how much time?
Time,
So
I
if
would
you had to
say, estimate at least, so since the bid has already been prepared, it's just updating it and time for that, I would estimate 2 to 3 hours.
Mr. Franco, any comments before we move on?
Yeah, mulling these considerations that everybody presented. Yeah, I don't really have a comment. I'm kind of, you know,
That's fine.
so.
We're not taking an official vote anyway. right?
Okay.
So-
We can always add it to
I understand
next
no
week's
rush.
agenda.
Sure.
And,
Talk about it then.
yeah.
Since we're 2-2 right now.
No, since it's not on the agenda.
Since it's not on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, one thing I think would be useful if the town manager could reach out to the open space, have them comment on just this parcel, and if they think it's going to have any major impact, which it probably won't, on their overall, thoughts on that side of town, because, that's an area that's kind of void of recreation areas for residents in that area. But if it doesn't have a huge impact, in their recommendation, then I'd be more than happy to support re-advertising it. But I'd like them to weigh in.
Okay. I mean, to be clear, I'm not against re-advertising it. I'm against re-advertising it now.
Right.
So obviously, we can wait to see what the decision of Open Space Committee is and what we could do with the property, regardless of the size that is wanting to be purchased. I understand that the property owner who was interested may have had issues, concerning the pandemic, and I certainly understand that. But, we have our own timeline too that we have to work with, so. All right, so let's put it on next week.
Next week? Okay, thank you.
Maybe Mr. Franklin will have enough time to mull.
I'm still. That can go on for a long time sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Comment letter to Mass Housing regarding the 40B project eligibility site approval application from Pondview Commons. As the board is aware, I finalized and sent the town's comment letter to Mass Housing regarding the 40B project eligibility site approval application from Pondview Commons on Thursday, September 2nd. There were 32 attachments, including submittals from the planning board, the police chief, the superintendent, the sewer commission, the water district, Hickory Hills Landowners Incorporated, town council, and various residents. A copy of the comment letter will be uploaded to the town website on the front page under news and announcements.
The attachments
Yes,
as well, the whole thing, okay.
whole
Good.
packet.
Yep. It was an excellent letter. I want to thank town manager and town council and the 32 people and 32 individuals and groups who submitted all their comments. It was really, very thoughtful, and I think it will make a very big impact, I'm hoping, when it gets reviewed by Mass Housing.
Yeah, I want to second that for sure. I defer to you, of course, Mr. Chair, but I came prepared to thank you for that as well, of everybody that participated in that. It was an extremely thorough and compelling read.
Yep, it really was. I agree.
So,
Update on grants. I applied for a $10,000 risk management grant through our insurance carrier to transition the town to Microsoft Office 365. And I hope to hear before their regular announcements in early November on the status of that grant. So that would transition our current email platform as well to Microsoft Office 365. I plan on applying for the Community Compact IT grant for IT equipment upgrades, and this grant is for funding up to $200,000 and is due by October 1st. The Council on Aging Director applied for a $20,000 community enrichment grant through the Community Foundation of North Central Mass to go towards the redesign of the existing outdoor recreation area at the senior center to make it ADA compliant.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
The $200,000 for the Community Compact IT grant, is that to introduce cloud-based servers into the town? Is that the intent of that money?
Most of that would address that, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second one is just a comment that they shouldn't have an issue getting that $20,000 from the Community Foundation.
Good to know. An update on COVID. It's been a while since I gave one of these. But due to the rise in the positive COVID cases in town, the director at Neshoba Associated Boards of Health asked us to post a public health notice from the CDC on how to protect yourself and others from COVID on the town website. So this has been posted on the website, and I also posted it to the town Facebook page as well. The weekly update from the Board of Health on the cumulative laboratory confirmed number of cases reported to the town from the Department of Public Health as of August 28th was 831. The positivity rate for Lunenburg as of August 28th was 5.09%. As of August 31st, the positivity rate for Worcester County was 2.9%, and for the state of Massachusetts was 2.74%. And so I'll provide another update next week on the number of cases in the last week to be included in that. I didn't have that information as of writing this. In other announcements, Lunenburg Farmers Market is being held on the Ritter Lawn on Sundays until October 10th, 10 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. And the fall special town meeting will be Tuesday, November 16th at 7 p.m. at the Lunenburg Middle School, High School Auditorium. Warrant articles can be submitted to the town manager's office until Tuesday, September 28th at 5 p.m.
Any questions for the town manager that weren't already asked about the report? Okay, I thank you for that report. Current business, a draft of the November 16th, 2021 special town meeting warrant.
So
We have 5 already.
5 proposed articles so far, most of which I've submitted.
Yes.
One of note is the one from the Board of Assessors, and that's the one I've previously brought up that they would be bringing forth for the special town meeting. That would increase the limits for the elderly exemption, and that would increase it from $750 to $1,000 with different income limits for single versus married asset limits.
So they should be requested at some point to come before the board and explain that article and what the current state is, so either in writing or in person, between now and sometime before town meeting.
Yep. You can make that
Sometime
note.
before we vote on recommendations for each of the
Yes.
articles. And I know that the TC Passios Design Committee Chair has reached out to me, so, about potential articles he probably has to you as well.
Yes.
So we should discuss that, and I'll have a conversation with him because he requested one, and then we'll see where we go from there.
They have a meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
Discuss, that's one of the agenda topics, I believe.
All right. Any questions about the draft special town meeting warrant? In its fledgling stage. Approval of August 24th, 2021 minutes. Has anyone read the minutes?
Yes.
And were there any changes? If none, I would recommend, or I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 24th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I
No.
abstain.
Mr. Jeffries abstained, so 4-0 to 1. 4-0-1. You abstained from
I'm
minutes?
usually good at reading them. I didn't read
Oh, you
them.
didn't read them, okay, all right, that makes sense, all right. Got very nervous about why anybody would abstain from minutes.
He objects to these minutes.
All right, warrants dated August 31st, 2021. Accounts payable in the amount of $510,536.63. A deductions warrant in the amount of $587,324.16. And payroll in the amount of $808,166.31. There was also a voided payroll in the amount of negative $2,431.04. Committee reports. Any, Mr. Marino?
None.
Mr. Dwyer?
None.
Mr. Franco?
Yeah, just to, the Economic Development Committee meeting that was scheduled for August 26th was canceled about an hour beforehand for anticipated lack of a quorum. I believe the next one will be September 30th, but I'll confirm that in a subsequent meeting here.
Mr. Jeffries? No. And none from me. Old business, discussion on revised request for proposal for the landscape architectural services for 30 School Street. That item, draft number 2, is in our Google Drive. Has everybody had an opportunity to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Is any questions about it?
None here.
Changes are all straightforward.
Yep. I concur. So it is basically just extending, we pared down the project of what we're looking for this particular phase. And we have changed the timelines. That was one of the reasons, at least that was given, about why there were no bids last time. So we will go back out to bid with this. So if everybody is fine with this, I would entertain a motion that we recommend to the town manager that this be sent out, this RFP.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, our upcoming meetings, we have next week and the 21st. The 28th will not be a meeting, as is the last. Oh,
Sorry, the community outreach meeting will be the 28th, so that's
all right,
an
there you go.
announcement. So I've been working.
Community outreach by
Uma Flowers.
Uma Flowers.
Also, I will not be at the meeting on the 21st.
Okay. So let's review the upcoming meetings. We have a meeting next week, a meeting at the 21st, which Mr. Jeffries will not be at. And on the 28th, we have the community outreach meeting from Uma Flowers. And that will be here
Yes,
at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
So it'll be just like a selectmen meeting with one agenda item. Okay. Do we have any public comment from the public?
There is someone on Zoom that joined with that phone line, but
Chairman.
there we go.
Hello?
Hello, Dave Rogers, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rogers, good evening.
Good evening. I have two questions. The first of which deals with the temporary recreation director. We appointed this person, but no explanation was given. I wondered if we could have a reason why we need a temporary recreation director. The second issue I have deals with the Shirley Lemonster building that was discussed this evening, some 372,000 square feet, plus or minus. Just to bring this thing into perspective, that is really a good-sized building. It's roughly 9 acres of building under roof. And I thought I heard that there were also projections of some 300 employees that would be housed. Is that right, or did I get something wrong here?
That was what you heard, that's what the presentation said, yes.
Okay. And they went on and talked about the trucks, the 104 in and 104 out. Was the term ever used about high bay application for warehousing, or was that, did I not hear that?
No, that was in there, yes.
Okay. The reason I ask is that if it's high bay application, obviously the 372,000 square feet can increase who knows? It's a function of how high the bays are, but it certainly could double. And it just seemed to me that it would be wise for us as a community to ask for a pro forma on the building so that we could ascertain what the rent roll would be and the potential gross income for the property. And we could then extrapolate the value and see what kind of tax revenue we'd be receiving on the property. On the surface, it sounds like it's something that should be looked at, and I am all for that which will increase our tax base and not really have a significant effect on schools, et cetera, et cetera. So I would hope that we would be able to, the taxpayer, would be able to learn more about this intriguing project. And I thought I heard the town manager say that the next meeting with the planning board would be on the 13th, where this would be discussed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. All right, so those are the two issues that I have, and thank you for the opportunity.
Would you like to?
Yep, I can address the first question about the temporary rec director. So the permanent rec director is currently on medical leave, so this is to temporarily fill this position until she returns.
Okay. And as for your second part of the comment, I'm sure that the planning board, well, first of all, I'm sure they would love your attendance and you can share your views there, but hopefully if they are listening or listening to a recording of this, they will address some of the issues that you raised, and they are certainly good issues that can be addressed during their site plan approval. Any other public comments? Any public, yes, well, I didn't ask for board comments. Now, any board comments?
Yes. Just quick comment that there's a pancake breakfast tomorrow morning at the senior center. So for all who are interested, feel free to come out, and nice, delicious meal.
What time is it? From
I
when?
believe it's at 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So.
Any other public comment from the board? None. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second.
Thirded.
Above and beyond the call, okay? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week, and please take the warnings from the CDC and the Board of Health seriously. Let's get the numbers going down, the positivity rate in Lunenburg. So until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Good night.
Thank you.